I was asked yesterday why Spoil the Vote is getting so much momentum online, why so many people are talking about it, and why next to everybody I'm talking to is exactly going to do that and is going to spoil their vote and spoil the vote. And I said, first of all, there's a phenomenal team behind the campaign of just really concerned Irish people that just don't like the way things are going over the last number of years, from referendums that they've tried to pass, from legislation that they've tried to propose, to now basically being told, the people of Ireland, you can vote for whatever presidential candidate you want, as long as it's one of the ones we tell you to vote for. And I think more and more people are kind of just so frustrated as to how this Irish government have basically turned their backs on the people of Ireland, and how they're basically just, we don't really give a shite what you guys think. And now, just like the yes, yes referendum, which was ultimately not defeated, destroyed, absolutely destroyed by the power of the people. And it was funny because during that referendum, when everybody online was saying it's actually going to be a no, because, we're sick of this, it was incredible to see those who said, oh, shut up, you guys on Twitter or whatever the hell, you have no idea what you're talking about. You do not represent the views of the real people, as far as they were concerned. Now, the real people they talk about are themselves, the handful of people that are trying to push all this shit through. And you could be forgiven for thinking that these orders are coming from somewhere else. And, that's why the referendum was destroyed, which is a perfect example, because so many people are saying, look, my vote isn't going to make a difference. Well, here's a perfect example of how it did. And the referendum removing mother, woman, and home from the Constitution was absolutely destroyed because of everybody's power of one vote combined. So what we have coming up now for the presidential election next week is we have another opportunity to tell the government, that's it, enough is enough. The difference here is that it's going to be an absolute embarrassment on a global stage when the spoil the vote hits as high as everybody is anticipating. So that, could you imagine one of our leaders meeting at the EU summit, or meeting at wherever, meeting Trump or meeting Starmer or any of these kind of guys, and they're going, what the hell happened in your country there, lads? Jesus, like, spoil the vote came second. Can you imagine if it came first? Spoil the vote got the second amount of highest votes for your presidential candidacy. Like, that's not mistakes. They're not genuine errors. That was a protest from the people to say, what the hell have you done? And I don't know if you're listening to any of the interviews, or if you're watching any of the so-called debates that are taking place on the national airwaves and TV stations. But with the greatest respect to both candidates, and I'm sure they're both wonderful people, and I'm sure they've both done amazing things in public service throughout their years in it. But neither of them are worthy of holding the title of President of Ireland, in my opinion. They're not presidential candidates at all. They just don't ooze any form of presidential class, in my opinion. And the reason why we're left with two is because of what the government did. And that's the main thing. That's the point behind it all. That you vote for whoever you want as long as it's somebody we tell you to vote for. That's where all this is stemmed from. And it's the bigger picture. So first of all, what we're doing by saying spoil the vote is showing this government that don't ever do this again, lads. Don't ever try that shite again with the people of Ireland, where you block candidates that we genuinely wanted to. I would have loved to have seen 2-3 of these candidates throughout this campaign debate, talk, to go, okay, yeah, absolutely, I agree with this person, I don't agree with that person, that's a good point. And more importantly, I turn around and say, no, actually, that's the person that I really want to see as the President of Ireland. That's all we ever asked for. But the government prevented that when they turn around and say, no, actually, we had democracy in action. You didn't. They blocked people from getting onto the ticket. And that's the main point. And that's why so many people are now turning around saying, yes, I am going to go there and I'm going to spoil my vote in an act of protest and an act of frustration, and more importantly, in an act of defiance of telling this government, we're done. We're done with being pushed around. We're done with being treated like children. Enough is enough. That's it. Finished. Spoil the vote. Don't ever try that shit with us again. That's why it's gaining so much momentum. Because people now realize their one vote can make a huge difference, particularly when there's a lot of us who go cast our one vote. That's why I'm going to be doing spoil the vote when I go to vote. Because I'm just sick and tired of how a government think that they're actually the ones in power. They need to remember that it's us that put them there, and it's us that ultimately holds the power. And by the way, and they won't admit it, of course they won't admit it, just when they won't admit when their referendum was so wrong. By the way, that cost us about 25 million of your and my taxpayers' money to run that ridiculous referendum. How much money has been squandered on stupid presidential campaigns of people who pulled out over a kind of a slight little kind of, one little mishap that happened a good few years ago? How much is that costing the taxpayer? They won't admit it, but they are genuinely, deep down, really worried about spoiling the vote, getting such a high number, because it's going to make them look like idiots. And if you watch and listen to their language, it's incredible how Catherine Connolly's party and movement are saying, oh, well, if you do spoil the vote, you're going to hand it to Heather Humphreys, and vice versa. Heather Humphreys saying, well, listen, if you do spoil the vote, you're just going to hand it to the opposition, to the left, and give it to Catherine Connolly. Because neither of them, and everybody associated with them, wants to see a strong spoil the vote. And that's why it's the right thing to do. Because when you're being told by government, oh Jesus, don't do that, then you know that's the right thing to do. Anyway, I'll be doing another video near to the time where I'm going to rally the troops and say, give me my Braveheart William Wallace speech as to why exactly I'm going to be doing it. But I just wanted to put it out there now. It's getting huge momentum. There's so many people coming in behind it. So many people are realizing the power of their one vote. Whereas beforehand we used to think, no, look, what difference am I going to make? Well, now you know. Spoil the vote. That's why it's getting so much momentum. And that's why, in my opinion, and I'm not telling you what to do, but that's why, in my opinion, it's the right thing to do. Let me know. Put down in the comments. And don't be going, oh my God, you'd make a great president, or any of that kind of shite. I don't need those comments. I need you to go vote and do that. That's what we need to do. So make sure, next week, when it comes to it, make sure you get to the ballot box and do what you got to do. Let me know what you think. Am I nuts? Does it make sense? Can you see now why it's getting so much momentum? Can you see now why they're so worried about it? Because we're going to make the way they made a mockery of democracy, we're going to make an absolute mockery out of them and say, hey, we hold the power, not you. Have a great day. Let me know in the comments. As always, I love to hear them. I read them, see them, whatever. Don't be so pedantic.